Arkane Studios is back with another banger. Deathloop is the latest addition to their immersive sim catalog that, with other entries like Dishonored and Prey, Arkane's reputation just keeps growing stronger. Deathloop solves some of the problems that are deeply ingrained in their previous games, achieving a fluid gameplay experience that keeps you constantly moving forward, as well as simplifying many aspects of the formula, especially from a gameplay perspective. Being an Arkane game, all the hallmarks you expect from an Arkane adventure are definitely present here, from the unique art style to the intricate level design full of alternative paths and secrets. I played Deathloop on a PC with most settings on very high, running an i7-7700, a 1080 Ti graphics card and 16 GB of RAM. I didn't run into any major problems during my playthrough, and the FPS hovered between 70 and 90 depending on how much stuff was on screen. I know a ton of players are running into many problems with the PC version, so maybe check out experiences from people with your same specs. Alright, let's go. Deathloop kicks off as we wake up, hangover, in a beach, with amnesia. Great. See some floating text, it gets acknowledged by the protagonist, so that means he's not insane, right? Get our first weapon, quickly get introduced to the whole time loop idea, and establish the goal. Break the loop. Why? Okay, hang on. We don't ask stupid questions here. Stop it. Our hacking tool. Let me present to you the most advanced piece of technology you'll ever see in your life. Colt. Oh, that's my name. Short combat / stealth introduction. Machete for life. Meet Julianna, the main obstacle behind breaking the loop. Bitch. The main gameplay loop, get it? Loop, is explained. We got one loop, 4 times of day, and 4 districts. So the day starts, it's morning, we choose a loadout and visit a district. Do your business, exit the district, it's now noon. Loadout, district, afternoon, same stuff, evening, and once the evening ends, the day starts again and no one remembers shit, except you and Julianna. If you die 3 times, the next loop automatically starts, and as Pathophysical players will say, back to the beach. Why 3 times? What did you just say about stupid questions? Okay? We have magical stones. I'd like to say the tutorial ends here, but the game actually holds your hand for quite a while before letting go. And since you visit multiple districts during this period, and it's your first time here, at least in my case, I spent a long time learning the different maps, which are incredible by the way. So you could stick to the main path and finish the tutorial fairly quickly by going straight to the objective, but that just wasn't my case. We eventually gained the ability to infuse items. Infusion allows us to keep stuff in between loops, so when a loop ends, anything that is not infused is lost. This includes weapons, weapon upgrades, character trinkets, which are like character upgrades, and slabs, which are the powers. Infusion costs residuum, the only in-game resource. So it is at this point that the game loosens its grip on the player and leaves them to figure out how to solve this puzzle of breaking the loop by killing all 8 visionaries in a single day. Let's switch gears for a bit and talk some combat. God damn, they made a good job here. So like Prey and unlike Dishonored, this game has guns. I know, quite insightful of me. But the clunkiness of Prey's gunplay is nowhere to be found here. Don't get me wrong, Prey's gunplay worked perfectly fine for what that game was trying to achieve, but Deathloop is just on another level. It really is a joy to break out the chaos and start shooting at anyone that comes in your way, as well as using your powers to throw them off a cliff or linking them all together so they all die at the same time. There is a variety of weapon types. It's not a crazy amount, but they all feel very much different from each other and are almost equally fun to use. You'll certainly have your favorites. There are also some unique weapons like this shotgun that transforms into a long-range rifle. I am in love with this gun. It's so satisfying to use and the animation is on point. Banshee, I need you to add this as a Destiny exotic. Thanks. The character's loadout is limited to 3 guns and 2 powers. The guns are fine, it's limited enough that you have to think about what to bring with you into the district, but not so limiting that it's too hard of a choice. The powers though, 2 powers only? Come on dude, shift is a must. If you're not using shift, you're a psychopath, okay? So that leaves room for 1 more power. Are you telling me that I cannot haul enemies into the sky and become an invisible god at the same time? Who are you? The fan police? This is what happens when your game is just too good. There is of course another side to combat, and that is stealth. It's an arcane game after all. So the stealth mechanics here are robust, in that since the game uses the same engine as Dishonored, even if stealth is not as much of a focus here, the overall feeling of sneaking through enemy lines and taking them out one by one is the same. The main difference is that Colt doesn't have nowhere near the arsenal of tools that Corvo has. So the logic behind stealth is Dishonored levels of robust, but the number of combinations to experiment with is much lower. Like, you either sneak up to an enemy from behind or shoot them in the face with a silenced gun. Those are your options. This caused me to, later in the game, forego a stealthy approach to any situation that either didn't require it or would just get too out of hand if the entire area was alerted of my presence, and I didn't want to deal with that. I was honestly fine with this. I welcome an arcane game that doesn't punish the player for choosing the more direct approach and going in guns blazing, especially when it feels this good. But if you come in expecting the next installment in the Dishonored franchise, you might end up a little bit disappointed. Also, enemies disappear when they die. Awesome. Deathloop solves a few of the extremely hard to solve problems present in previous arcane games, resulting in a vastly superior uninterrupted gameplay flow that allows for a more enjoyable overall experience. So if you play Dishonored, there is about a 99.99999% chance that you've fallen into the save scamming trap. The player falls into this pattern of performing an action, quick saving, trying something out, failing and getting discovered, quick loading, trying the same thing again but succeeding this time, quick saving, and so on. It's the worst. Your actions have no real consequences, mistakes can always be fixed. Yeah, of course you can choose not to save scam, but the possibility is there. And why will I replay the entire mission if I can just go back a few seconds ago to the time where I didn't have a whole building of guards coming after me? At the same time, I'm not so sure that not having the ability to quick save in Dishonored will be that good of an idea. Consistently going undetected is no easy task, and as I mentioned earlier, the punishment for being detected is pretty high. So again, this is a hard problem to solve, and it's one that dramatically cheapens the experience when present. So what does Deathloop do? How did they manage to solve this problem? The game saves when you exit a district. Once you launch into a district, however long you spend in there and whatever you do, you can't save the game. The key to all this is the whole loop concept, because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, the player can do, no matter how hard they mess up. The next morning the loop will start anew and everything will be reset. Oh, you didn't get to hear a conversation between 2 characters that would have given you the next clue? Too bad, come back the next loop. Oh, an item that you had sent in from another district earlier in the day so that you can open a safe in this district that doesn't have said item got lost because you switched guns while shifting and it went flying to the horizon? Too bad, come back the next loop. Well, that was oddly specific. I'm not salty about that one at all. What a waste of time. Point is, the carelessness of knowing that everything will go back to normal when the day ends translates perfectly into the gameplay and players' actions. So save scamming is not even a possibility. Getting detected is not a fail state. And then there is one more thing. One more beautiful gift from the game designer gods. And that is the complete absence of dark vision. Actually, Prey doesn't have this either. I'm so tired of games relying on this alternative vision where every little piece of information is just given to the player. With a single press of a button, the player suddenly knows exactly which items they can interact with, where each enemy in the level is, the direction they're facing, the name of their dog, what they ate for breakfast, etc. We can find many examples of this mechanic, from Geralt's Witcher senses to Batman's detective vision to Corvo's dark vision. As a player, you get used to having this information quickly available to you, and as a result, become overly reliant on it. Why will I look around the level when I can hold the key and the game will tell me exactly where everything is? Not only that, but the levels themselves are designed with this in mind. Anyways, it seems weird to dedicate so much time to talk about a feature that is not present in the game, but I really want to praise the decision of not including it. I deeply enjoyed analyzing every corner of a level on my own, looking for clues and actually figuring out where each enemy is located and how to avoid getting discovered. I say it again, Deathloop's gameplay flow is a huge step forward, putting more trust in the player's intelligence and shifting their focus onto what's coming next instead of what could have been if things went as planned. The only way to fix the past is going forward into the next loop. So what's up with this loop? What's up with Colt? Why does he want to break the loop, and why is Julianna trying to prevent it from happening? Some of these questions have answers and others not really. The explicit side of the story is told through radio calls between Colt and Julianna each time you launch into a district, and also short conversations between you and other Colts. I'm gonna leave it at that. There are also some stylish cutscenes that sum up how to kill a visionary once you figure that out, but there is no real story being told there, it's just a really cool way of showing progress towards the end goal. Most of the interesting, mysterious side of the plot, you know, the meaty stuff that you really want to know about, is told through notes. Many of them you have to pick up and read, since you naturally come across them as you progress through the campaign and unlock new areas. And some others, perhaps the most revealing ones, are hidden behind puzzles that may take you a loop or two to figure out. I have no inherent problem with this. I don't mind reading lore from in-game text, as long as whatever is in there is well written and interesting. However, almost anything that is not breaking the loop related is treated like something secondary. Colt learning about his past? What actually is the anomaly behind the loop? Why is Eon carrying out the time loop experiment, and what's going on outside the island? I don't know. I mean, yeah, there are answers to some of these questions, but the characters don't seem to be interested by anything that is not the relationship between Colt and Julianna or how to kill a visionary. I will have to get into spoiler territory to get my full point across. I just wish the whole time side of things was more of a focus. Despite all this, the writing is so good. There isn't a single line that seems remotely out of place. The notes that you find, the text messages between characters, it's all on point. And the voice acting, incredible. I could never wait to jump back into a district and get those few seconds of conversation between Colt and Julianna. Now, by far, the most unique storytelling device this game uses are the floating thoughts that Colt sees from time to time. These add that extra flavor to every scene that just completes it. I've never seen this done so well. They really help in communicating the character's gut feeling to the player, something that is not at all common in games, and when it is, it's usually just the character talking to themselves out loud, which is not the same thing. The visionaries are okay. The whole point of the game is to figure out how to kill every visionary in one loop, which means we have to set up the perfect conditions to make this possible. So gathering information and understanding what drives the visionaries is the main thing we will be doing. So this is cool, and each visionary is very unique, their motivations are different, but there is no on-screen relationship between Colt and the visionaries. We don't talk to them, there is no development on that side of things at all. Now, time for the real star of the game, and that is the level design. This is Arkane we're talking about here. We all know how good they are at creating the best levels in the industry, and they did not hold back. Oh man, the first time visiting each district, going into the different buildings that are insanely detailed, getting clues about stuff that already happened or that may happen later in the day, discovering secrets and hidden paths and secondary entrances. It's so good. It's just so good. Now, on top of that, When you go back to the same district at another time of the day, you may find completely different shit, which makes revisiting each zone so worth it. The same building you cleared out in the morning might have burned down by the afternoon, or the ice formed by the evening's cold might let you access a hidden cave by the ocean. The whole game is set up to play with these chains of events in mind, the biggest one being trying to kill all visionaries in one loop. But then there are multiple, you can call them side missions, that you may choose or not to complete. So for example, 10 hours into the game, I was burning through loops fast, loading into a district, getting one specific thing set up, jumping into another district and seeing the consequences of that play out. I have to say though, outside of secrets, the game is like a... Okay, this is gonna sound like way too harsh, it's not that bad, but the game is like a fake Outer Wilds, in that it does give the player a lot of agency as to what to do next, but then holds your hand once you make the choice. Again, this is not necessarily bad, but if you're looking for a super hardcore, I need to figure out how every event fits into the loop type of deal, just know that you will get some help. I want to quickly talk about the reward structure, because this is how you do it. There is a degree of randomness to enemy drops, but this is all a plus. The actual loot that you look forward to is deterministic and offers as rewards of secondary leads, killing visionaries, or just secrets. And the cadence of upgrades is on point. You are constantly upgrading and modifying your loadout. The more you progress through the game, the harder it gets. There is no difficulty selection here. Instead, the same enemies that couldn't see you crouching right below their noses in plain daylight at the beginning of the game progressively turn into eagle-eyed sons of bitches with superhuman reactions. Of course, at this point you have access to top-tier trinkets, weapons, and all the powers and their respective upgrades to level the playing field. The top-tier level design, the engaging mechanics of the time loop, the sheer fun of the combat. It's all so well executed that it just might, hide the fact that there are only 3 enemy types that are essentially the same humanoid enemy, just a bit more tough. And then there are like 3 combat interactables, or whatever you wanna call them, the sensor that alerts enemies, turrets that shoot you on sight, and nullifiers that prevent you from using any powers. All 3 of these you can hack from pretty far away right from the beginning of the game. Don't take me wrong, I'm not saying this is bad, quite the opposite, it's genius, it's so simple, yet it works so freaking well, and it doesn't get tiring. Alright, let's finish this on a high note. PvP, invasions, what's up brother? Okay, hear me out. I cannot be f***ed to throw away an hour of gameplay because a clown with 420 milliseconds of ping, a machete, and a f***ing dream is trying to ruin my loop. I just can't. The PvE is super fun and enjoyable, but this is not the sort of game you want to play PvP in, unless you're doing it just for the memes. On top of that, if you have online invasions on, you cannot pause the game. But Dark Souls does this and it works perfectly fine. Yeah, you're not in a time loop where you need to set up shit for later on in the day. And running back to where you died is a piece of cake, and the invader cannot ruin your stealthy approach. In all seriousness, the PvP is fine. It's a cool extra gimmick that also ties into the lore. But it's just that. And that's it for me. I highly recommend Deathloop, especially if you're into previous Arkane games. Just like Prey, it kept me hooked the whole way through, and after finishing it, I still wanna go back in and shoot some dudes in the face. That tells me there is something really special here. See you next loop. Goodbye.